Hey everyone, it's Pam and I'm here with my monthly update video letting you know everything that I was up to in the month of January. Starting with podcasts, good news, there's been a new episode of Media Mavens. The show's been on a bit of a hiatus since Riley went to South Korea to teach English. And while sadly Riley was not on this latest episode, I invited my friend Sarah, who has been on a number of episodes of the podcast before, to come and talk about all of the things in 2018 that we really hadn't had a chance to talk about yet. We tended to focus more on movies and TVs and some podcasts as opposed to games, because I feel like I've sort of said everything I need to say about games in my best of 2018 video that I posted last month. So if you have been missing Media Mavens, as I have missed recording it, go check out the latest episode, which I will link to below. I was also a guest on another podcast last month. I'm part of a Facebook group called the Classic Gamers Guild, and I was on the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. Hosts Rick and Paul sort of interviewed me, asked me about my channel and how it got started, and we talked about some classic game things, sort of favorite adventure games, the EGA versus VGA debate, and that was a good time, so check that out as well if you're interested. Other than that, there's not too much going on. I'm actually feeling a little bit discouraged about my channel in general. I feel like my subs have been sort of slowly and steadily rising for the entire time that I've been doing YouTube videos, but lately my views are just kind of sad. I just put out a Recca video. It's been almost a week and it's just barely over 1,000 views, which I feel like with almost 16,000 subs, that's a very, very low number of people who are actually watching my videos, and it's clear that YouTube's not really pushing it out to anyone that doesn't already subscribe to me. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I can do to make this a little more rewarding and fulfilling. I really like making these videos, and I feel like I've been putting more and more work into them, and they've been getting better. Like the Recca one wasn't just a game review of a shoot 'em up, it was also a lot of history about why the game was created and summer gaming competitions in Japan, which was fun to research. But I also feel like the more work I put into my videos, the less people are actually watching them, which, you know, kind of sucks. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what to do about that, whether there's like some other kind of content I should be making, or whether I just have to teach myself to not care, which might be a difficult thing to do. But yeah, if you haven't seen my Recca video, please watch it. Even if you're not into shoot 'em ups, there's some other interesting stuff in there, I think. My shout out for this month is Candy's Classic Game Shrine. This is a channel that focuses mostly on retro games, but occasionally covers some modern ones. She does game reviews, which are often tempered by her memories of playing these games as a kid growing up. She does peripheral reviews and console reviews. She'll make lists of things like her unpopular gaming opinions, which is something that I like sharing, and her favorite consoles. And she also has a whole series of reviews of Virtual Boy games. The Virtual Boy is a strange console that I really have no desire to ever play, but it's very interesting from a sort of technical and historical point of view. So if you're interested in those, go check out her channel because she's got a ton of reviews for the game on that system. Yeah, check out Candy's Classic Game Shrine, look at a few videos, give her a sub. In terms of pickups, there's not a whole lot from this month. I'm still sort of trying to recover from Christmas and the move in December. So there's just two things. The first one is The Order 1886. My friend Dia put this game as her top game of 2018 when she wrote an article over at Giant Bomb, and that's sort of what's pushed me to play this. It's one that I've kind of wanted to play for a while. Anytime I've heard the reviews of this, and the reviews don't tend to be good, but they almost all focused on how short the game is. And while I can see, you know, not wanting to spend full price, which is $80 in Canada, on like a 5 or 6 hour game, now that it doesn't cost that much, a 5 or 6 hour AAA game is exactly what I want in a game. The shorter the better. So I will give this a try sometime soon. And the other thing is I got a new vinyl It's here. Can you guess what it is? It makes it a little bit difficult to recognize if you're not familiar with it, since the name is only on the spine. But this is Bastion, which is one of my favorite gaming soundtracks. It's got a nice double disc. It's got a very interesting design. It just got sort of these little items rather than like the characters or the beautiful environments from the game, which was an interesting choice when they did the design of this. The records are they're just plain black, and they've got the little symbols on them, like the anvil and the pistol. Yeah, this is there's already cat hair on it, or dog hair. There's always dog hairs. As soon as anyone opens a vinyl, all of the hair in the area just goes and like statics onto them. But yeah, I'm excited about this one. I have listened to it already. It sounds great. I don't like getting up to switch the record over to the other side. That part sucks. But yeah, happy to have one of my favorite soundtracks in some kind of physical form. Now onto the games I played in January. The month had a bit of a rough start. I was playing things that I wasn't really enjoying, although I ended up finishing like 10 games in January, which is kind of a lot. I'm not going to go over all of them here, but the first thing, one of the things I bought myself after Christmas was Call of Cthulhu, which I was looking forward to. It's sort of an adventure game. There's a little bit of detection, a little bit of sort of RPG elements in picking skills and things. It started off pretty good, pretty atmospheric. It had that whole Lovecraft vibe going on with it. But sort of as the story kept going, I found it just got a lot more convoluted and difficult to follow. It wasn't that effective. The Cthulhu mythos and the games are supposed to be about losing your mind, and I don't think it really captured that or portrayed that in a particularly effective way. Yeah, it just, after a while, it just kind of turned into a bit of a mess, and around 3/4 of the way through, they introduced this combat mechanic with gunplay that was just terrible. So yeah, Call of Cthulhu, not a big fan of this. I am really looking forward to the one that's coming out later this year by Frogwares, who are the people who make the Sherlock Holmes games, because I really like those, and I'm hoping that that is more up my alley than this one was, because yeah, after a while I just kind of lost interest in it. Even though I finished it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anyone. A second one that I was looking forward to but ended up ultimately being disappointing was Bendy and the Ink Machine. In this, you play an artist or an animator who goes back to his old studio where something terrible has happened. You're trying to find out what, and it's basically like a horror-themed walking simulator. And while I enjoy a lot of walking simulators, this one just didn't work as that, and it didn't really work as a horror game. It wasn't particularly scary. You can probably see by the sort of art style, it's got that kind of old art style. It feels like it's almost going for the Cuphead thing, except that everything is sepia-toned, or sepia-toned? Whatever. And it gets really redundant. Everything is the same color. The layout of the levels is very confusing, and I found that no matter how much time I spent in the game, I really never got a handle on the layout, and there wasn't a map or anything to help me. A couple of the chapters basically consisted of a series of fetch quests, which aren't fun quests to begin with, but then combining that with the confusing layout just made them really unbearable. So sadly, Bendy and the Ink Machine was a bit of a failure for me. Yeah, it's too bad. I've been rewatching Xena Warrior Princess on DVD lately. It's one of my favorite shows from growing up, and I've also been listening to a podcast that recaps every episode, which has been a lot of fun. So to go with all of that, I thought I would finally give Xena on PS1 a try. Not my cup of tea at all. As much as I love Xena as a character and as a TV show, this is basically a fighting game in PS1 3D space, which are two things that I'm not really a big fan of. So yeah, fighting games just aren't my cup of tea. The controls and moving the camera around are very, very awkward to get your head around. And it's not even Lucy Lawless that voices Xena in the game. So I've only played like a level and a half of this before ultimately setting it down. Now finally, a game that I did like, I noticed that Steamworld Dig 2 came out on Xbox after months of not being on that system, so I picked that up and played through it all over the course of a day or two. It's a lot of fun. It's a little bit of a make your own path kind of Metroidvania type of game. It's quite similar to Steamworld Dig 1 if you played that. There's, you know, some new abilities, you're playing a new character, but overall the game is quite similar, but honestly that was fine because more Steamworld Dig is a good thing for me. So it was a lot of fun. It's got this cute aesthetic, good music, and a lot of interesting abilities. I really love the digging mechanic where you're making your own paths to levels. It sort of just creates a cute, fun little spin on the Metroidvania genre. And yeah, if you're looking for a fun game that doesn't sort of ask too much of you, Steamworld Dig 2 is great. Also finished a puzzle game called The Gardens Between, and this is a really beautiful game about two friends. You come to realize pretty quickly in the story that they're next door neighbors and they're sort of moving apart. So you're kind of going through their memories of all the time they had spent together. And it's really cool because there's only one mechanic. You can move forward both in space and in time, and you can move backward in space and in time. So you've got your two characters, you press forward or right trigger or anything like that, you go forward, time happens around you. There's these little bells and these little lights that you can use to alter what's going on in the level, and basically you just have to go back and forward until you figure out what the puzzle is that opens up the way further into the level and finally gets you to the end. And there were some very, very clever puzzles that they did with that. A lot of the environments had things like lightning striking or drips of water falling, and you would have to use time, and moving it forward and backward would make different things happen in the environment based on those things. And it was just very, very clever. Like, there were some times where I felt absolutely stuck. Like, I have no idea what this game wants me to do. All I can do is go forwards and backwards. Like, what can I do with that? But then once it sort of clicked, it was like, oh wow, that's super smart. That's a really good puzzle. So if you are a fan of puzzle games, this one is unique and I think you would like it. So that's it for this month. Please let me know in the comments if you've been playing anything particularly interesting or if you got any good pickups. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.